So in the previous video, we took a look at two-point linear perspective. In this video, we'll just very quickly look at how we might be able to add color to our compositions. So with this example, I've got these three box-like forms in here. And what I'm going to do is create my color palette first. So I'll click on my foreground swatch and we'll pick a color here. Maybe I'll try something in the reds. And I think the first thing I'll do is determine what my highlights will be. So maybe we'll go with a color like this. I'm going to just paint a little swatch on here. We'll go with something a little bit darker now, maybe a little darker, and I'll maybe saturate it a little bit more. And yet one more shade of it, and finally, or tone, we'll go with one more here, even darker, something like that. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is just start filling in these sides of the boxes with some color. To do this, for my example, I'm going to simply use the paint bucket tool. If I hold down Alt, I get my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to select my highlight color. And I'm going to drop it onto the top of these two boxes here. I'll select this slightly darker tone and maybe drop those on these sides of the box. Select yet my darker color and drop it on these sides. And then finally for the bottom, I'll get the darkest color and drop it in there. And now that I've done that, maybe I'll create another layer. I'll put it behind this layer. And for the time being, I'm going to simply drop in that one color in here. We could try doing some color shifts to it. See if we want a different color for our background. I kind of like this. Play around with the saturation, desaturate it. Play around with the darkness and the lightness of it. And maybe I'd go with something like that. Or perhaps something else we could try is a gradient. So I'm going to make another layer and we'll try that out. I'm going to select this color here that I've created, and for my foreground color I'm going to select it again, but we'll make it a little lighter, something like that. So I have two colors here. You can see I've got two colors here that will make a nice gradient. I'll go to my paint bucket tool, hold my mouse down on it to get this other selection. I'll pick the gradient tool. For this example, I'm going to be using this gradient here. You see that you actually have 5 different types of gradients that you can choose from. And the gradient is going to use the colors that I currently have selected for my foreground and background. So I'll come over here then into my composition and drag a gradient in here. If I want to try the opposite direction, I'll start from the top and draw my line down. And perhaps I'll go with that. Oftentimes gradients can really give a nice sense of, I think it can enhance that sense of three-dimensional form. Now that I've done that, maybe I'll come over to this layer, delete my color swatches, and I'll go to View and hide my extras, which will get rid of these guidelines here. And before wrapping up this video, let's take a look at one more way that we could color our three-dimensional forms on our linear perspective compositions. So for this example, I'm going to go to one of my things I created in an earlier video, my tileable texture, and we're going to use this. I'm going to copy it. Just copy the whole document here. Go back to my 2-point linear perspective composition, and I'll paste this stone texture in here. What I'm going to do is duplicate it and move it over here. And I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Distort. And now I'll just grab this corner down here, grab this side, drag it over here, and we'll place this corner as well. Once I've got it positioned, I'll press Enter. I'm going to now do the same for the top and this other side. Now that I've got the 3 sides on there, let's do a little bit more work to it. So I'm going to select this layer here, and I'm going to go to Image, Adjustment, Hue Saturation, and we'll make it a little darker. I'll now select the top layer, and we'll make that one a little lighter. And there we go. So those are a couple ways that you could color your 2-point linear perspective composition. I'll see you next time.